All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to our MTSO's first evening meetings. For this kind of meeting, we're planning on doing a meeting every other week. So the second and the fourth of every month, we should have a meeting. This is kind of more chill, and we're planning on getting into it next semester, but we're planning on doing a few in-person meetings, a few Zoom meetings where we have guest speakers like tonight, and we also are planning on taking our members to the symphony. So that's one of the main events that we're planning on doing next semester. So tonight we're having Diego talk about internship applications. I'm gonna give it over to him and I'll stop talking.
Okay. Hey everyone. So today we're gonna obviously talk about internship applications. It's a very stressful topic. I feel like it's just something that's kind of like, not talked about enough. It's very like mysterious. There's a lot of unknowns when you go into internship and especially like applying for it. So today we're just going to talk about, where to find internships, how to build a resume, how to, what to prep for interview wise, looking at different applications and stuff like that. So I'm gonna share my screen really quick. La 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 la. Share. Slay. Okay. Demystify music therapy internship by me. So if you guys, okay. So if you guys can, I don't want to say it or type it, you guys can tell me like what emotions, moods, or thoughts come to mind when you think of internship. Just shout it out. Fear. Yeah, that's a lot when people have excitement.
There's also anxiety, like kind of along with fear.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, fair for all of that. So I just want you to think about that, like hopefully like think about those moods and that hopefully by the end, those those negative ones are down. I just want you to start thinking about that. So finding an internship. So these are two really good websites to find an internship at. So I'll just go to them really quick. Let's see, hopefully it works. So AMTA website is obviously our national roster website where, you can find internships in any state, across the US that are obviously accredited and are approved for you to apply to. Let's see if it works. You share. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Cool. So this is obviously our AMTA website. If you go down to here, you'll find your, and then what you can do is you go to member type, and then you will find your national roster internship. And then for me, I would probably do, if you want to do Arizona, search, and then you would find all of your internships that you want. So right now there's not a lot, obviously, which makes obviously like adds to the anxiety, but Arizona State Hospital and Banner are two national rosters that you can apply for. And then how do I go back to PowerPoint? And then we also have your regional. So for us in Arizona, that's your RAMTA, so your Western Regional American Music Therapy Association. And I will also show you this one. This one I feel has a little bit more resources. So you go resources up here, internship sites, and then, right, you get a longer list. And my advice for these is that you should keep, you should click on them and obviously like kind of see which ones are active, which ones are inactive, because not all of these, like especially in California, a lot of these are not still like active. So a lot of them have been discontinued. So it may look like a long list, but it's really not the real list. So always communicate and email and ask questions to and call people to obviously, get a clear picture about that. And now, so that's how you kind of start where you're finding internships. Obviously, asking around, asking other music therapists where they got their internships can also help. Things to consider while you're looking for your internship. A big one is support system, obviously, because when you're doing internship, you switch from doing 1 to 2 hours a week in practicum to doing a 40-hour full-time, unpaid, usually internship. So support systems are huge. You want, like for me, I wanted to apply a lot to California because I have my support system there and it's gonna like carry me a lot and like kind of help me stay healthy mentally and just like be able to take a break. Financial needs. Most of your internships will be unpaid. It's unfortunate, but that's just how we have to deal with it. So financial needs, taking out extra loans, is it paid, is it unpaid? Kind of goes back to thing of like, do you have family there? Do you have friends to live with? All of that good stuff. Population, please like pick a population you're gonna like, because it's 6 months for 40 hours. You don't want to pick a place you're gonna not enjoy because you're not gonna learn as much. This is going to make it harder on the supervisor. It's just going to make 6 months of really hard work, and your burnout is going to be a lot faster. And then location, I kind of talked about this already. Oops. Location I already talked about, right? Your location is everything. Also, like if you have family or friends to live off of, if you're gonna like the weather there. I don't like I don't like snow and the cold, so I would not apply to somewhere in New York, right? Like I don't want to live through a New York winter. So those are also things to consider. So when you find an internship, right? So say I want to apply to Arizona State Hospital. Kind of the first thing I would do is contact them for an application. My name's Diego Hammond. I'm a student at ASU and I'm interested in your music therapy internship. And then you should do that for every place that you're interested in, because every place has different requirements and you always want to double check what those requirements are. Kind of something that sucks about internship is that it's not standardized. So every place will ask you for different things and it's up to you to be able to navigate and like organize that. Yeah, so due dates will all obviously be different. Mizuki was mentioning that her due dates for September start date are December 31st, which is not the same across the board. Some internship sites want it, in March for a June start date. Some of them want it, in February for a June start date. So it really just depends. And that's why it's really good to start looking now, especially for like my seniors. Seniors, you need to start looking right now. My first year grad students, you should start looking, at the beginning of January too. It's probably a good time to start. And then juniors, you should start looking at the beginning of your senior year. Give yourself that full year to find it. Professional communication. There has been some internship sites that have like burned bridges with us because communication was not professional. So please be professional at all times, be courteous, and don't try to start any fights. So this is a lot. It's okay. This is what a sample application, one of my sample applications look like. I'll just go through it very briefly. So for mine, it's like a paid internship. So like I'm an employee, I would be an employee. So I had to, the first one is submit a standard application. So I had to submit a full job application to get this internship. That was my first step. So, and then there's a supplemental application packet. Most internships have that, most applications will have that. It's a series of questions and series of questions that will be asked about like your philosophy, why you want this internship, and we'll go over that later. We also have your unofficial transcripts. That's easy to get off of ASU. And then this is where it gets tricky, is your 3 letters of recommendation. Places will be different. Places might ask for 3 supervisors, so 3 practicum supervisors. This place was weird because they asked for my music therapy advisor. So it's from Dr. Belgrave, and Dr. Belgrave doesn't know any of my clinical experience, so it's a little bit odd to me. So I had to ask her for a lot of things from this application. And then also from a clinical music therapy supervisor and a 3rd letter from anybody I chose. So this is why it's important to keep good relationships with all of your supervisors, all of your professors, no matter how you feel about them. So always keep like in good graces with everybody. A verification of eligibility. This is just 1 sentence from Dr. Belgrave. She emailed saying, you know, Diego Hammond can apply for this internship. He has done all the work. That's something you just asked from Dr. Belgrave. Evaluation of competency. This is from like either a supervisor or a professor, and they just go through all of your skills and they kind of rate your skills, either musicianship, therapy skills, all of that stuff. Resume, typical, we'll go over that. Functional music skills. This is where it gets tricky too. Every place is different on what they want musically. So that's also something that you need to keep organized in your head, is this place wants, you know, You Are My Sunshine 3 different ways. This place wants just 1 pop song. This place wants a song on each instrument. So every place is different. So always be wary of that. And then interview, also typical, every place will interview you. That's standard. Any questions so far? Okay, cool. So resume. This is a tricky one. So this is where I got a lot of my help from. So ASU does give you a lot of resources for your resume. I would suggest you take advantage of that, because that's how I built my resume. And I'll kind of show you the website. So it's career.asu.edu. You'll go to career resources, and then here, yes. And then you go to your resume and application materials. Oh, what did Laura say? La 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 la. Oh yeah. Laura, are you talking about like a music therapy resume? Or like,
No, no, just music specific. Like I have one that has just like employment. Like, you know, I worked at the library, I worked at a law firm. But then like one of my professors suggested a music resume. So it just includes like all my practicum experiences, my internship experiences, if I taught piano, if I taught, and like any ensembles I was part of in college, like so just having like a separate one that just has anything music related was a suggestion given to me. So I think that's really smart idea.
Okay. Slay. Okay, cool. I didn't know that, so thank you for that. So this is kind of where you can find, you know, all of your resume help. The one I used was this social, human, and services resume. And then I'll show you guys what it will look like. For my resume, I copied and pasted almost exactly the format wise. No one's really gonna know or care, right? So this is just like how you can find those resources. How do I do this? And then, how do I do this? Oh my God. So everyone. Boom. Okay. And then from here, you can also schedule a career appointment, which is also something that you can was very helpful for me. So right here, right, resume and cover letter help. So you come with your resume and they will kind of dissect it, reword things for you. So like Laura said, you can also bring in your music therapy resume as well as your music resume, and they can help you decide what to keep and what not to keep. So those are also like some really good resources for everyone. Next, I will show you my resume. So this is how I built my resume. I kind of did I did my clinical experience first, obviously, because you're applying as a music therapy intern. So you want to highlight all of your clinical experience, right? So obviously it's in order of, present to, like chronological from most recent to latest. Yeah. And then I also added some of my work experience. Some things I kind of want to highlight is like wording. So this is where like kind of your goals will come in. So engage clients through music listening, movement with music, and song discussion to improve quality of life and socialization. All right. That kind of shows off your clinical thinking. It shows off your intervention and your goals, right? Another one was lead groups of 20 older dogs with severe mental illness. So like my population, and identifying and implementing coping skills for daily use through music interventions to decrease maladaptive behaviors and length of stay. Kind of wordy, sorry about that, but so it's like your population, you always want to share your population, the interventions you used, and what you were trying to achieve. So really like that clinical writing. Any questions about the resume, about where to find resources? Okay, I'm just doing a perfect job then. Ha ha ha. So documents from
Sorry,
staff.
I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead.
I'm driving right now, but I do have a comment for adding stuff to resumes. For all the juniors and seniors, you can absolutely add the Tempe Adult Daycare Center. That is clinical experience, and I learned that from Carly Jacobs and Sarah Rabbit that is, you can absolutely use that, and it is relevant experience.
Thanks, Seth. I did end up adding that because I also thought the same thing. Like, it's technically like it's not a practicum, but you're doing music therapy interventions with them, so that's totally fine to do that. So now documents from staff and supervisors. Ha 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 ha. This is a fun one. You want to give them 1 month notice. So typically professors want, or anybody wants like 2 weeks notice. However, I would suggest doing 1 month. Tell them the due date. So say your due date is August 31st. Tell them your due date is August 14th. And then that way it gives you that extra 2-week buffer. Because that happened to me where my documents didn't get in within 2 weeks. And then thankfully, because I had that extra 2 weeks, I was able to turn everything in on time. My second thing, be professional and cordial with everybody, because you never know who you're gonna have to ask a letter of recommendation from. So I just really think it's important to always be on everyone's good side, and whether or not you agree with, how they teach music therapy or how they run music therapy sessions, it's always good to just have, be nice to everyone and put on a smile. All right, don't be scared. I'm just gonna go through a couple of these. So typically, in a application, they will ask you these questions. So earlier when I talked about the supplemental application packet, this is what they'll usually ask. I'll just go over a couple of these. Why are you interested in interning at this facility? This is kind of where you want to think about, research the facility, find their values, find their population, find their philosophy of music therapy, and like This is when all of your research about that site and whether or not you're really going to enjoy it there. Describe your philosophy of music therapy, right? This is typical for everyone to ask. What are your areas of strengths and weaknesses when working with this specific population or in general, right? So what are your strengths and weaknesses as a music therapist? Some ideas that I used was like one of them was like growing my therapeutic muscle, right? So one of my weaknesses is like, I only have, 40 hours of experience, and that's going to be experience I get in 1 week. So being able to like create a good balance and to not get burnt out. Another weaknesses that I said that can like be turned into a strength would be getting out of a performance mindset and then the therapeutic mindset involving music, right? And having a plan to go with that. What do you hope to gain from this internship experience is another one that's asked a lot. Yeah. Any questions about these? I know these are like kind of like big questions to try to answer right now, but I just want to put these in your head as you go through kind of your last rotations in practicum.
Yeah, I kind of have one with these questions. What's like an appropriate length to answer these questions? Like, are they expecting you to say what's on your mind and just like elaborate, or like, I kind of like still don't know how to approach this, even though I've tried writing a philosophy. I'm still kind of like, I don't know what's too much and what's not enough.
That's a good one. Typically you want to do 3 to 4 sentences max. Also, I had an application where it asked for short essays, so I had to write a little bit longer. I had to write like 7 to 8 sentences to describe some of these questions or to answer the questions. Typically 3 to 4 sentences, be concise with your wording, stuff like that. Bye, Lauren. Have fun.
Bye, thanks, guys. Have a great night.
You too. Anything else about supplemental questions or like how to answer them and stuff like that? Good. I'll let you finish writing, Tiffany. Interview prep. This is a big one. I feel it's kind of one of the most important things. I feel like researching the facility and the population they work with, that's a given. You should know, that you're applying to, a place that works with people with disabilities, with developmental disabilities. You should know that going in, hopefully. And that kind of leads into, well, about researching the facility, you should know their philosophy. You should know their, their vision statement and like their values. I got asked that on an interview was, how do you align with our site's values? And they didn't tell me what the values were. I had to know them off the top of my head. So because I knew them, I was able to answer specifically, I align with this value and this value. So that's stuff to really like keep an eye out for. The next one is create interventions with goals for the population. I would say minimum 4, right? So for me, I applied to a state hospital, and so in that setting, you're working on like with people who have schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, personality disorders, and like anger management. So I created interventions for each group. That's something, and I got asked that on the interview. So luckily I had those ready and I was able to describe exactly how I would run each intervention. Also just gives you an idea of what you're going into. Read research articles about the population. This is a good one, I feel, because it leads it helps you create interventions as well. So those go hand in hand. They're like that. I already talked about mission statement, values, and vision. Watch videos. This one is because you get to really see like what a music therapist in that setting feels and believes and how they might run a session. So I feel like that's really good experience, and just like it can get you like more excited about working with that population in that internship. Look up the music therapists that work at the facility. This one is like, okay, I did some stalking and I found the music therapist at the sites one of the sites I was applied to. I found her and I found like this kind of Q&A she did. And she was my interviewer. So I was able to kind of find what she was looking for in an intern and what her beliefs were as a music therapist. So that was kind of cool. Any questions about interview prep? What to do, how to do it, how to find this stuff maybe?
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead, Laura.
In the event like a question is asked that you like maybe haven't experienced, like they may say, what's your experience with, I don't know, a patient getting aggressive during a session? I think it's really important to be honest with the people that are interviewing you instead of like trying to appease them and say like, oh, it's this, and making something up that you think that they want to hear. It's important to be honest and say, well, I haven't encountered that, but this is how I plan to, or this is how I envision myself handling this kind of situation. So even if it's something that you maybe haven't experienced firsthand, having an idea of how you might approach said situation, I think is really valuable as well.
And going off of like what Laura said, is that you can also talk to music therapists who are in that field. That's what I did. I tried to find music therapists, like maybe not at the site, but that have been in that setting before, and kind of ask them, like, what is the setting? What do you like about it? What don't you like? What kind of interventions do you do? Do you do more group or more individuals? Stuff like that. That's also another way that you can prep for a site, is just reaching out, finding music therapists and talking to them.
I had a question.
Yeah.
So like when you say you stalked like the music therapist, Diego, like was it like on LinkedIn or was it like through like the I guess like maybe their facilities website, and if they had like bios that you read?
Yes, both.
Okay.
I just found the because I got like the Zoom the invitation. I just looked up her name verbatim and I found like the Q&A that she did. And I was like, okay, that's cool. And then I also did look them up on LinkedIn. So be careful on LinkedIn though, because it does tell you that you search for them. It does, if they have like the one that you pay for, they will know that you search for them. So keep that in mind when you're doing that. And then last, I don't know if this last, but possible interview questions. So obviously, why do you want this internship? What kind of group sessions do you like to run? How do you deal with disruptive behaviors? How do you deal with death? Describe flexibility, your strengths and weaknesses, explain the parts of a treatment plan, what's important about assessment. So for an interview, they're trying to see your clinical way of thinking, obviously, because you're an intern. They're trying to see what your baseline is, what your baseline clinical thinking is. Right? So, it's not about coming up with like the perfect answer, but it's just coming up with the honest answer that, you really believe, and like kind of having, like basing these answers off of your clinical experience. It was helpful for me to like have staggered interviews because I was able to like kind of sit on the questions they told me and like reflect on it and then keep going to my next one. So that's why I'm trying to help you here with these prep questions. Another thing that also might be helpful is looking at other applications that you might, even though you're not applying to, look at other applications, because they will ask. So what I'm trying to say is like cross-reference. So if you go to another application, they'll have different supplemental questions that you can look at, and then those supplemental questions might be an interview question in a different internship. Does that make sense? Right? So going to different applications, finding different questions and answering those will help you, in a possible interview. So that's how you can, take advantage of that. Any questions about interview prep or interview questions at all? Maybe like how to answer them, or like, like if I can help you push towards a clinical way of answering these.
Yeah, I guess just like your interview prep. I know at least like I have trouble saying the word like and a lot. So like
Mhm.
when you prepared, I guess did you just already have like I guess like what was your own interview preparation?
So it was a lot of this stuff, because I did like research articles, and because I did the interventions and the mission and all of that, because I did all of this first stuff, I was able to have like a really good grasp on the population and the setting, right? So when I went in, I wasn't as nervous as I could have been. So that helped me not, do the staggering. That helped me not say and like, those kind of filler words, because I kind of was pretty well prepared. I just said it. What else did I? Also taking time to think about questions, right? So when you're getting asked these questions and you're like, oh shoot, I don't know, I don't have an answer for that, you can just sit there in silence. It's okay, right? It's okay to be like, okay, give me a second, and like, okay, let me think about that. And then, yeah, and it's totally okay. Like, they're not gonna expect you to go boom, 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 boom through every question, and that's okay, right? Some questions will be harder than others. Some questions you need more time on. So it's okay. And it's okay to express that to your interviewer, that you need a second. Yeah. And then anything else about interview questions or about the actual being in an interview that might scare you? No. All right. Oh, questions. Any questions about the whole internship application, the process? I don't know. Like we did finding one, what might be asked of you, different resources to help you with that process. All right. I'm just going to sum it up that I'm perfect and that I just did such a good job. So I do want to say that like feel free to contact me if you guys have any, like questions. If you guys want to do mock interviews, like I'm totally happy to do that with you. Like kind of like thinking through some of the questions and like getting asked it once and being able to think about it before your interview is always good. So this is how you can reach me, like my school or my personal email. Either one is fine. If you want me to listen to your musical, your audition pieces, essentially, I'm always happy to do that. If you want me to see your resume, I could help you with that, or does someone like to bounce ideas off of? So if you guys ever need help, I'm always free. And I just want to let you know the internship you get is the one you were meant to get. So even if you get denied somewhere, it's okay. If you get denied 4 times, it's gonna be okay. You're gonna get the one that you're meant to get. And that's it. And then I'll stop sharing my screen. La, 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 la. Cool.
Thank you, Diego.
Of course.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was really cool. Well, I guess if there's no questions, we can just wrap it up now. Let me stop the recording.